If you are a mobile subscriber of Vodafone Idea or Airtel, this video is very important for you because if the Supreme Court decides to take a tough stand on this AGR issue, these companies might have to close their businesses. And then the question is, what is this AGR issue and why Vodafone and Idea are on the verge of going bankrupt? Hello, welcome to Newsbug episode number 5. In today's video, we will try to understand what is this AGR issue. We will also go into the roots of the issue. We will understand how it all started. And now, as this case is in the Supreme Court, what are the observations that Supreme Court has made on this issue? We will also understand how much the companies have to pay. And also we will understand the scenarios. What if the companies are forced to pay? And what if the companies fail to pay? Let's start with the first question. What is AGR? Now, to understand this AGR term, you need to first understand how the telecom companies operate in India. For a telecom company to provide its services in India, it needs two things. First is a telecom license, and the second is it also has to buy a telecom spectrum. And for that, telecom companies have to pay license fees and spectrum usage charges as fees to the government according to the revenue sharing model. Now, the revenue amount used to calculate the revenue share is termed as AGR, and the full form is adjusted gross revenues. Let's take an example to understand this. If Airtel earns 100 rupees from its operations, it has to pay 8% as license fees and 3 to 8% as spectrum usage fees to the government. That is, it has to pay 8 rupees as license fees and 3 to 8 rupees as spectrum usage fees to the government from the AGR of 100 rupees. To understand this, why this revenue sharing model was established, we need to go back in time. When in 1994, the government of India was in the mood of privatization, liberalization and globalization, the telecom sector was chosen to be liberalized and private players were allowed to operate in the telecom space. So in 1994, under the Indian Telegraph Act of 1885, the private telecom companies were granted the license to provide telecom services in India. And under this deal, the telecom companies were required to pay a fixed annual fees to the government. And since the fixed license fees was high, many telcos defaulted on their payments. So in 1999, the government introduced National Telecom Policy, under which the telecom operators were given an option to migrate from a fixed license fee model to a revenue sharing model. Now, under this new revenue sharing model, the telecom operators were required to pay a fixed percentage of their revenues to the government as license fees. The percentage was initially 15%, then it was reduced to 13%, and in 2013 it was again reduced to 8% of the total revenues. Now everything is clear cut on the paper. Then what is the problem? The problem is with the AGR definition. What all is included in the revenues of telecom companies? There are two conflicting definitions of AGR. The first definition is defined by telecom companies and the second definition of AGR is defined by the Department of Telecom. According to the telecom companies, the AGR should only include the revenues from the core operations, the revenues which are generated from the people like us. We buy talk time plans, 4G data plans. These are the revenues from core operations. But according to the Department of Telecom, the AGR should include all the revenues that are earned by the telecom companies. It should include not only the revenues from the core operations, but also from the operations, any other operations that telecom companies operate. For example, if a telecom company sells a mobile, it has to calculate that revenue into the AGR. And similarly, the revenues from sale of asset, insurance claims, forex gains, etc. It has to calculate all that revenues into the AGR. Now this is a very big problem for telecom companies because according to the definition of Department of Telecom, now the telecom companies have to pay their license fees and spectrum usage charges on their total revenue, which is higher than the revenue from its core operations. The whole fiasco started in 1999 and in 2003 the telecom companies lodged a case against Department of Telecom alleging that the Department of Telecom, that is DOT, has illegally added new elements to the AGR definition. The case was initiated in 2003 and today it is 2020. 18 years have passed and the case is still running in the Supreme Court. So whenever next time you say to someone, I will sue you in the court, remember this. Now in these 18 years, all kind of Mahabharat has been played. The telecom companies have challenged the definition of AGR, to which the Supreme Court has rejected that challenge. Then again the telecom companies said to the Supreme Court, give us 20 years, we will pay that AGR dues in installments. To that the Supreme Court said,
चल झूठा.
Supreme Court said, we cannot wait for 20 years. There is no guarantee that you will be able to pay that dues in 20 years. So in the last hearing, the Supreme Court ordered telecom companies to give a clear roadmap how they will pay the remaining AGR dues. The Supreme Court also said that the telecom companies have to pay a big down payment in order to be allowed to pay the remaining AGR dues in the installments. The Supreme Court has also ordered telecom companies to submit their audited financial reports to the court in the next hearing, which is will be conducted in the third week of July. The next question is how much money the telecom companies have to pay. Actually, if we look at the pure AGR dues, these are pretty small compared to the total amount the companies have to pay. If you look at the pure AGR dues, these are only 23,189 crore rupees. But here is the problem. As this issue has been pending for 20 years, the telecom companies have not paid the AGR dues. So the Department of Telecom has charged interest on these AGR dues. And as the telecom companies have failed to pay these dues and interest, the DOT smashed a penalty on these telecom companies. And these penalties were not paid, so DOT again charged a interest on these penalties. So now the original AGR dues are 23,189 crore and interest on that amount is 41,650 crore and the penalty is 10,923 crore, and one more thing, there is interest on penalties which is 16,878 crore. Now coming to the companies, we will only talk about the companies which are active and actively providing telecom services in India, because there are many companies which have gone bankrupt, folded their business and owes government of India thousands of crores of AGR dues. We will not talk about them, we will only talk about the companies which are active. Now starting with the market leader Jio. Jio had only 195 crore of AGR dues which it has already paid. So now Jio is the second company is Bharti Airtel. The total AGR dues of Airtel is 43,980 crore, out of which Airtel has already paid 18,004 crores. But the problem for Bharti Airtel is that the remaining AGR dues are huge. But I think it should not be a problem for Bharti Airtel as it has recently raised $3 billion and its share price is at all-time high. So raising capital would not be a big question for Bharti Airtel. In addition to that, there was a news that Amazon was interested in investing $2 billion in Bharti Airtel. If this deal materializes, it will make easy for Airtel to pay its remaining AGR dues. Now coming to the hero in the list, Vodafone Idea, which has AGR dues of 58,254 crore, out of which it has only paid 6,000 crore rupees, and now it owes 51,400 crore rupees to the government, which it has to pay. Now the problem for Vodafone Idea is that it has a debt or the loans of more than 1 lakh crore rupees, which it has to pay to the banks. Another problem is that Vodafone Idea is losing its market share, and the share price of Vodafone Idea, which traded at 204 rupees at one time, is now trading at 9 rupees. The court has already clarified that Vodafone Idea has to make a big upfront payment in order to get the option to pay the remaining AGR dues in installments. Now it will be very interesting to watch that how much money the Vodafone Idea is able to offer, because it has to satisfy the Supreme Court. If Supreme Court is not satisfied, the case will be again dragged. Now consider scenario number 1, in which through some mind-blowing management, Vodafone Idea is able to cut a deal with Supreme Court and it is allowed to operate in the market. Even in that situation, the market may turn into a duopoly where two major telecom operators, Reliance Jio and Bharti Airtel will control the majority of the market, because in next 1 to 2 years the 5G spectrum will be auctioned and only Jio will have the financial appetite to buy these spectrums. Definitely Airtel will be able to compete with Jio, but not at its best. There is one more thing with the 5G networks. It requires a major investment in the infrastructure, because to establish 5G network, a dense network of towers have to be built. Vodafone Idea already out of the equation. Airtel, which has huge AGR dues, will struggle to make a major investment in infrastructure. Reliance Jio will be a clear winner in this situation, and that is why we have seen major investment from the international investors in recent days. There is also a very unlikely scenario, the scenario number 2, where the Supreme Court forces Vodafone and Idea to pay the AGR dues immediately. And as the Vodafone Idea has clearly mentioned in the Supreme Court that if this happens, the Vodafone Idea will have to close their business and will have to let go 11,000 plus its employees and 30 crore plus customers, because no other telecom companies has the capacity to absorb 30 crore customers in one go. Although this scenario is very unlikely, but we have to remember this is 2020. Nothing is impossible. The next hearing in the Supreme Court is in the 3rd week of July, and after that I will make an update video on this issue. One bonus point at the end, we should start looking at the Starlink project, because if Elon is able to complete the Starlink project, it will definitely affect the telecom companies. That's it for today. I hope you have understood what is AGR, the history behind the issue and the whole situation. Share this video on WhatsApp, Facebook, any other social media that you use. That way you are not only helping me, you are helping your friends and family. You are making them financially literate. That way you are doing something good. If you are new to the stock markets and investing, I would recommend you opening your Demat Trading Account with Zerodha. Zerodha is India's leading discount broker with state-of-the-art setups for investing and trading. So there is a link in the description. Click on the link and you will be directed to the account opening page, where you can easily open your Demat and Trading Account with Zerodha online. I try to create simple videos with decent quality. If you like these videos, let me know in the comments, and if you want more videos from me, consider subscribing my channel. That's it for today. It is always great to learn something new, so keep learning. Bye bye.